going on, everybody? BobbyFi here for my 5 plays in 5 minutes. Hope you're all having a great Tuesday. I'm not going to talk about the Dodgers on this because the Dodgers are pretty chalky and pretty much my favorite stack, but I think it's going to be pretty common, obviously, as we will have this game that is taking place in Colorado. So I'm going to talk about some other plays. Reminder to check out truedfs.com. I list all my plays, my ownerships of each team, pitchers, etc., and my bets of the day, as well as Sheets, which, by the way, I've just been absolutely crushing. Sheets has been killing it. Rody's been killing it. Team's been doing really well. So you guys might want to jump on board now. It's free for the first month, and check it out. See how you like it. Let us know any feedback. And if you don't, you can jump out. If you do, you can become a part of the community. I'll attach a link to our Discord and to the site in the description of this video. All right, with that said, let's start off. Some of these plays are going to be pretty chalky as well, but again, can't play everybody, so it's going to be hard to do. So I have Alex Bregman as a preferred play today. I expect him to be highly owned. His price is just still too low on DraftKings. I know maybe we could say, oh, he didn't get there for me. He didn't do this for me in the past and recent times. I don't care. I am going to be all over Bregman today in the matchup against Naughton and the Angels. I really, really like the Houston here. If you're not going to play Bregman, I think that a great pivot is Matt Chapman. No one's really looking at Matt Chapman, I don't think, in the A's enough tonight. I'm not into stacking the A's. I actually think Gonzalez is a pretty good pitcher, but Chapman against the lefty at just a little bit of a higher price range at a fraction of the ownership of Bregman, I think is a really interesting pivot. And that's sort of what I want to keep the theme of this video on, is who I want to play and then who some of the pivots are. So let's jump over to catcher. I love JT Realmuto. I love the Phillies in general today. I think that they might be, there's some stacks that really stand out today, so it's hard to gauge their ownership, but I think they're going to be a little lower owned. This guy will be the highest owned of them all. JT Realmuto, I think, is a terrific option at 4,100, just way too cheap against Tate and the Baltimore bullpen or whoever they end up throwing out there. It's still a little bit up in the air as who Baltimore starter is. Everybody is really cheap on Philly. They make for a nice combo stack with the Dodgers. So that's something I like doing. Odubel Herrera, Bryce Harper obviously is the pay up. McCutchen is the cheap option. Brad Miller is cheap. Didi Gregorius is cheap. I really like this stack, but Realmuto is where I start it all. It all starts for me. And there's not a direct pivot I like off of Realmuto at catcher, but I do think that he's my favorite. And I think Will Smith may be the lower owned of the Dodgers. So I'm going to say he would be the pivot, and he'll probably want to be one of the lower owned Dodgers tonight because of his price on DraftKings at 5,400. Next, we're going to talk about the Yankees outfield a little bit. And I love the Yankees for one-off power upside, maybe even, a small stack or something. But I'm going to be playing Joey Gallo. I think Joey Gallo at 4K is it's a great matchup for him against basically a bullpen game for Texas. He can get the ball in the air, so even a ground ball pitcher who's opening like Dunning doesn't really scare me. I think Joey Gallo is a terrific option, definitely my preferred of the Yankees right now. Judge and Stanton, I have no issue with Judge either. 5,100 actually feels too cheap for him in some ways, but Judge and Stanton are terrific options as well. I just personally am finding myself siding with Gallo in this spot. If you're looking for another player at a similar price range, I did mention the Philly guys. Odubel Herrera's 3,600, and I think he's a really viable option. But I think that, Gallo and your pivot is probably Stanton. I like those guys a lot, and I think they're both going to be probably around double-digit ownership. Stanton may not be, but I think that it's a really, really good spot for them. So I do want to try to force in some of these Yankees outfielders. One other guy who is a great option is Soler, who's just under that price at 3,800. He also will be popular, probably more popular than those guys, but all terrific options there. Again, chalky play at first base, but a guy who I love, Freddie Freeman. I think that he is probably my favorite option along with Muncy. I'm using Muncy on FanDuel as my second baseman, but I do think that Freddie Freeman over here on DraftKings is a terrific option and going to be in a fair share of my lineups. I did mention, I think Muncy is the best other option. I think those are going to probably be your two highest owned first baseman, at least the way I'm looking at it. I think maybe some of the Dodgers might actually be a little bit lower owned today than you think, because it's just hard to get the stack in, but it's doable. It's absolutely doable. So I do want to focus on Freeman and Muncy, but then if you're spending down, you can go down to Rizzo at 3,700 or Vogelbach down at the bottom at 2,700. Those are your other options for that position, in my opinion. The other thing I want to do is I would like to, in some of my lineups, I want to get some Baltimore bats, and it's hard to know how their lineup's going to shake out as they do change it quite often. I always side with Austin Hayes. I think we're catching a guy who's going to be a stud on the way up, so I'm in general favoring that. But Santander and DJ Stewart's prices are both great, especially DJ Stewart on FanDuel at 2.3. So I think Mullins would be my favorite play on the Orioles, but getting some exposure. The problem is I don't want to use all the Orioles outfield. Mullins and Hayes are my two favorites, but if Hayes isn't even in the lineup, but I think you can go other routes too. I think that they all are in play. Severino as a catching option in the middle of the lineup at 3,200 is interesting. And I just don't expect these guys to get any ownership, so I'm using them sort of more as filler on this slate. Favorite stack is the Dodgers, followed by Philly, Atlanta, and Houston, then the Yankees. But the Yankees, I like the 1 to 3 man stacks playing for the home run a little bit more. They're really cheap, so I think people are going to want to try and play them as a stack, maybe more than is currently showing up on ownership projections. So that's what I'm doing. Pitching is all over the place. We'll be live at 6 Eastern time. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. Can keep it going, Team True DFS. Everybody seems to be winning at least 5 figures every day. One guy, at least one guy from the site has been doing it every day. So let's keep that rolling on to today and have another really nice one. And good luck to everybody out there. We hope to see you at the top of the leaderboards.